Hello, welcome to Sideways, and welcome to autumn, although this morning it feels more like summer. Anyway, this week we're talking about two emotions that are often confused with one another. We discuss what the difference is and why one is far more valuable than the other. Martin has the latest in his long line of obituaries. I wax lyrical about driving over a bridge. And there's a predictable but apt choice for the Spotify playlist. Sympathy and Empathy.
All right.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can.
I've turned my mic down a bit so it's not so loud. I don't want you moaning again like you did last week.
Well, it was ridiculous. So loud, it was overpowering. Yeah, listen to this. Listen.
Go on.
You ready?
Yeah. That is lovely. I feel relaxed.
Yeah, that's it. We can begin. I'm going to use that every time to begin the episode. And then when we're finished, I'm going to ring it again.
Aren't you supposed to sort of go around the edge of it as well to increase I don't know, there's a way of playing it, isn't there?
I don't know. I've only had it a day, haven't I? I haven't got to grips with it yet. I'm not an expert Tibetan singing bowl player.
Oh, you're not? No, well, you ought to put some effort in. In fact, I had a message from my daughter Lizzie this morning saying, because I told her we were recording this morning, she said, will Graham be ringing his bowl? And I said, I suspect he will. I've got this hunch that he will introduce the singing bowl at some point.
Yeah, it was, for those of you that don't know, which is all of you, it was Martin's birthday gift to me, and I'm very pleased with it. I have my very own Tibetan singing bowl, and I've been knocking out a tune on it with great enthusiasm for the past 24 hours.
I'm glad you like the gift anyway.
Very nice, thank you.
And a belated happy birthday for yesterday.
Thank you very much.
Good work. Good work. So what do you want us to talk about today?
I don't care.
Don't really care.
So it's sympathy and empathy you want to talk about, right? Well
done. Well, you did. You read the message today then. That's okay, yeah. But there's something else I want to do just before we start.
Right, okay.
Just something I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
I don't want really this part of each episode to turn into an obituary section. I just wanted to
now?
I just wanted to pay respects really to Charlie Watts, the drummer of the Rolling Stones.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Is that all right? He was someone that always wanted to sort of avoid the limelight, but he had a period in his life where drink and drugs nearly ruined everything. And he struggled. It was during the 80s, but he was also, he was drinking an awful lot. And he was also taking speed and heroin. So he was quite heavily into it for a few years. And ironically, it was Keith Richards that steered him in the right direction. Okay.
You wouldn't have thought he was the most likely candidate, would you?
Well, obviously as a big drinker and drug taker himself, he had great empathy with the situation, rather than sympathy, which sort of perfectly illustrates what I want to talk to you about. And it's very important to us addicts, with having someone around you with empathy, which is why our peer support groups work well, and why talking to a fellow addict, the feedback you get seems to be much more relevant and focused than someone that's just saying, "Oh, sorry to hear that. Sorry, yeah, you'll be all right. Get on with it."
So, do you think this is? Do you think that recovering addicts believe that other recovering addicts are the only people that can be empathic with them?
To a large degree. I mean, there are people obviously that don't fit or haven't had addiction problems that are really, really useful and really helpful to be around, like therapists, for example, and like some of the people.
Particularly, you mean?
Well, no, I was trying to ease that in gently without trying to inflate your already very large ego. But no, it was. There's some people that worked out the local hub that are brilliant that haven't actually been through the mill themselves.
Yeah.
Even though they work in Mill Street, there's some pretty good people there. Well, hey, ba-bum. So I mean, it's just looking at those two words. We like to do a little bit of a definition before we set sail, don't we? So we know what we're talking about.
Well, you do, yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I know you sit there looking a bit bored, but
that's all right.
Yeah, I think it gives it a little bit of structure to it. So
yeah, and I know you like a bit of structure.
I do. I mean, both words have path in them, don't they?
Yeah.
Which, or if when you write that down, yeah, when you look at it, you'd say, "Oh, that's path," wouldn't you? Which, so perhaps our friends from the north of this country have it right in this respect, because and that stems from the Greek word pathos, which can mean suffering or experience or emotion.
All right, Stephen Fry.
Yeah, I do feel like a bit on QI, but I'm going to take it one stage further, right? So it's got the roots are in the Greek language, or in the ancient Greek language, and sim is at the part of sympathy. Also comes from Greek, which means with or close to. So with or close to the emotion, and em, as in empathy, means in or within. So they're very similar. So understandably, they're mixed up often by people, even though they've got slightly different emotional meanings.
That's very good. I feel like I'm back at school.
Yeah, I don't want to come across as being sort of didactic here, but I think it's quite. It does annoy me sometimes when people do use the wrong word. It's a bit like people using when they're writing down something and put the apostrophe in the wrong place or something like that. It's just a little niggle sometimes.
Well, you are a pedant for things like that, aren't you?
I can be, and I'm trying to rein that in because it's not a very positive thing to be. It's just that it can irritate me sometimes.
Well, I think it's okay to be pedantic about grammar and punctuation and things. Although I didn't send it to you, but we were talking about you yesterday because my sister gave me a birthday gift, and it was a small box of miniature green and black chocolates, all sort of different flavour, kind of mini bars, as it were.
I like those. Yeah, I know the ones you mean.
Exactly. And my daughter pointed out, as we were looking at the box unopened, that they were all the bars, except the last one, were facing the same way. And the last one was facing the other way round. And we were talking about how that would drive you to distraction. And I said, yeah, let's take a picture of it and send it to him.
And you didn't?
I didn't. We took the picture, but I didn't send it to you. I probably got caught up in the moment of celebratory madness. I mean, obviously, having bars of chocolate up a different way doesn't really matter, but grammar and spelling.
No, it doesn't. But I would have turned that round before I ate the first one. That's for sure.
I did turn it round.
You did?
Yeah, actually, because it annoyed all of us.
Oh, did it? Oh, good. That's okay. That makes me feel a bit. I'm glad you've got empathy with my situation. Well,
that's very good. Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm not sure I was empathising with you particularly. I think it just annoyed me. That's why I did it.
Just another quick illustration is regarding sympathy and empathy. I mean, you get a lot of cards, don't you? You know, when someone has passed away, you send a card out, and they've all got with sympathy on the front, haven't they? And that sort of demonstrates the distance, doesn't it, between you feeling that sympathy and the situation that they're connecting with. I mean, it allows you to think about that situation without, but you're remaining at a bit of a safe distance, aren't you? Then, so your emotional state of mind isn't profoundly compromised. You're doing your duty and you're sending that off, which is probably why you don't see any cards. Or I've never seen one with with empathy written on the front. You don't see that in the stack in Clinton cards, do you?
No, you don't. It's interesting because I was thinking about exactly that example this morning. But it reminded me of something else about death that I think we spoke about in an episode that we did on bereavement, which is people find it very, very difficult to know what to say when you're bereaved. And that is another illustration of the difference between sympathy and empathy. Because the reason people struggle to know what to say is because they're reaching for sympathy. They want to do something that will make it better. They almost want to say to you, oh, well, never mind, because it's going to be okay, because of this or because of that. Of course, that's completely inappropriate when someone's died. But to be empathic is recognizing that sometimes there are no words. Sometimes you can't say anything. It's just about being with. It's about connection. That's the real power of empathy. And that's difficult to convey in a card. You just have to have a blank one.
Well, quite, yeah. It is tricky, and I'll come on to that sort of connection and disconnection aspect of it later on in my notes. But that's surprising.
Oh, will you?
Yeah, I will. Thank you very much. Yeah, I want to keep you. I don't want you to trample all over my structure of my notes. I know you've not seen them, so it's not your fault. So don't get all defensive about it. But it's strange with that empathy situation and sympathy. It's Les, who I work with, and myself, as you know, we've both been through the old mill with the cancer in the past.
Yep.
And we was working at someone's house on one occasion, and she was in remission. She'd been in remission for a little while from cancer, and she was almost talking about it almost in whispered tones to us when we were working around there. And it's when I said to her, well, Les and I were both, we're all in the same club as you. We've all been there, we're all in remission. And all of a sudden, a sort of demeanour changed. And I want to come on to that change as well later on in my notes, but I thought it was quite a good illustration. Just reminded me when you were talking there. Yes. But
I'm not going to say anything now because I don't want to disturb your flow and your notes.
Well, you probably haven't got anything interesting to say. That's probably, you look a bit sulky, actually. But when again, looking at, I just want to go through a couple more differences, really, if that's all right.
Yeah, feel free. I expect they're on your notes, are they?
Of course, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't want to try and divert you from those.
Thanks, mate. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think your passive-aggressive tone is doing much for this episode. I just want to throw in a few quotes, if that's all right.
Oh, Christ!
Yeah, I know. See, I know that's sort you out. See, that's what the power of doing a bit of preparation beforehand is. That you can have a few quotes to hand.
Okay.
Sympathy can amount to feeling sorry for someone, which is an acknowledgement of a situation. It's not a concept that requires someone to experience the emotion that the other person is going through deeply. Sympathy is feeling with instead of deeply feeling for them. With this, there's a natural detachment from the situation, which we've already touched on. But I remember at one time you and I were talking, it was a number of years ago, about sympathy and empathy. And I remember you saying that sympathy can sometimes be quite harmful when you're sort of validating the way the recipient of the sympathy feels about themselves. Do you remember that comment? You probably won't remember the conversation, but you understand what I'm trying to get at there, where it can make someone feel that the situation they're in doesn't alleviate it by receiving sympathy.
It's not a very beneficial thing to show to someone. Oh, poor you, isn't that tough? It's really difficult. It's a little bit. Well, I think we talked about it earlier. There's no connection in it, is there? You're distancing yourself from someone. Oh, aren't you in a terrible position? That must be really tough for you. How's that helpful?
Well, yeah, it isn't. And I think when we were talking about it, we were talking about when people are looking at us addicts and saying, "Oh yeah, bless you. I feel sorry for you." When they don't particularly, it's almost demeaning. But what it does, if someone does feel a bit of sympathy and feel a bit sorry for you, it makes you feel, well, this situation I'm in is really bad. Then I thought I was starting to get through it, and then you're coming along being sympathetic, and perhaps I'm not. So there can be quite when it falls on someone that is perhaps who's got a bit of low self-esteem anyway. It can keep them there within that emotion rather than lift them out, because, as we said earlier on, it's difficult to know what the right thing to say to someone is. But by being sorry around them and a bit moping, then it can keep people exactly where they are.
It's almost as if you're hijacking someone else's sadness in some ways.
That's another point I'd written down. It is, yeah.
But, when you're saying there that people don't know what to say, I think this is one of the things that people find most difficult is the realization that not saying something is often the most powerful thing. I can think of times at work where I haven't known what to say to someone. They've told me something so striking, so clearly traumatic for them that there aren't any words. And I go through this few moments of thinking, oh, hang on, what am I going to say about this? Until I get to the realization that actually I don't need to say anything. I just need to kind of be. People need you. People just need you to be with them. People need sometimes to be emotionally held. And that doesn't require words. That requires a kind of presence, a connection, a sense of being with rather than words. Words in situations like that sometimes just aren't powerful enough.
They're not. I know. Sometimes, in groups over the years I've sat there and there's been some truly, truly terrifying stories that come out. And then when I'm facilitating the group, again, it can be difficult to know what to say. But, the way I always approach it is to say, well, no, that's, I can't possibly understand what you're going through. You own that set of emotions. I can't get, I don't know how you're feeling. I couldn't possibly know how you're feeling, but, we're here for you on this one. We're always here to listen out. And, if there's, almost like if there's anything I can do to help the situation. But it's quite tricky, especially in a group situation where perhaps someone's got limited time to speak and you need to sort of move on, and you need to wrap it up a little bit, but wrap it up sensitively before you move on to someone else. So it can be quite tricky, but I've found over the years I've got better at that. It's something that I would have felt quite initially when I was running groups quite uncomfortable, but now I don't.
Well, because I think people find silence uncomfortable.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
But when someone shares something of themselves that's very powerful, if you can tolerate the silence, sometimes the silence is of much greater benefit than you can possibly imagine.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, empathy is much broader, really, isn't it? It's a more intense emotional reaction to a situation.
It's intense because it's intense because you're standing with someone rather than away from them. And that, in order to stand with someone, you don't need to be able to fix something. You just need to be able to recognize the pain that they're in. You don't have to experience, you don't have to feel it. You have to, in some way, be able to take their perspective, try and imagine their perspective, and stand with them in it. It's hard.
It is quite tricky. I mean, you're sort of when you're moving from sort of sympathy to empathy, you're experiencing a bit of sort of a fraction of their emotions and feelings because you start to see things from their perspective. And I think, talking about us addicts, it's much easier because we really can see from each other's perspective why we act in a really irrational way sometimes, but we understand it because we've been there ourselves. And I think a great illustration recently of empathy was probably, do you remember that MP that stood up in the House of Commons, and he was talking about the awful situation in Afghanistan? Now, the MP that stood up was an ex-military man, and all of a sudden the House of Commons fell silent while they were listening to him. It was a very emotional speech, and at the end of it, I mean, you're not supposed to clap in the House of Commons, but there was a slight ripple before he sat down and someone else stood up to speak. But they picked that out and put it on the news. I mean, the House of Commons can be a very dull affair if you're watching a televised version of that all day long. But this particular highlight they picked out, and he had great empathy with the situation. He'd been there, he'd seen exactly what the situation was, and he was worth listening to. Another little quote I quite like here is that empathy is walking a mile in someone else's moccasins. Sympathy is feeling sorry that their feet hurt. So I think that was quite good. I don't know why they chose moccasins in that particular quotation, but I quite liked it. I think I tried other footwear in there to see if there's anything more appropriate. I think moccasins worked about right.
Yeah, my dad always used to walk around in moccasins. I don't know if you remember. He used to go down into the town in his moccasins, and he was walking a mile in his own moccasins, wasn't he?
There used to be there's three brothers that used to play their football team with the Morrisons, right? And they all loved a moccasin. And after football, I remember all three of them came into the pub, and they all had their moccasins on, and someone said, "Oh, it must be Morrison's moccasin morning." And they all had exactly the same colour as well. Yeah, it was a fabulous setup. All of them quite good footballers in their own right as well.
Perhaps that's where I went wrong. I didn't wear moccasins enough when I was younger.
It's
a better footballer.
It's a nice soft footwear after you've been running around on with football boots, because if you're running around on a hard pitch and the studs you can feel sort of almost bore into the bottoms of your feet, and so you need a nice relaxing bit of footwear to go on. So moccasin does fit the bill. I don't know, we're banging on about moccasins here, but it
or a nice foot bath, a foot spa, perhaps.
Yeah, you can't wear those down the pub, can you?
You could if you sat at a table. You could have it underneath the table, sort of bubbling away, couldn't you?
You could, yeah, have waiter service. Yeah, do you mind? I just want to pop my feet in these. You can bring me a lager over. That'd be great. Anyway, there's another important quote that I came across by someone called Brené Brown, and she's an American professor and author. And she said, and this is quite an important quote for us addicts as well. She says, if we share our story with someone who responds with empathy and understanding, shame can't survive. Which I thought, I didn't really understand that at first, but the more I thought about it, was, yeah, that's right. It does. It does help to alleviate that shame. And it really works in the peer support situation where we can trundle into the meetings sometimes. I remember in the early days, and you're really shameful about being there in the first place. We've known people that have hidden up outside and then rushed in the door at the last moment because they didn't want anyone to see them going into there. So there's an awful lot of shame can be attached to our condition that we have. And when we do sit in a room and there is empathy and there's sharing, it's surprising how the shame does start to lift.
Yeah, because one of the pillars of empathy is the avoidance of judgment. You can't be empathic with someone if you judge them. Okay. You can only show empathy if you are without judgment. That's why empathy is so important for therapists. It's no good if someone comes in and tells you something, you think, oh, that's not very good, is it? Because that's it. I mean, all you're doing is you're amplifying their shame. Yeah, you can't do the work unless you are prepared to, leave your judgment at the door. And indeed, ethically, if you felt that you couldn't escape from judgment for a client, you'd have to not work with them.
That particular lady also said that empathy fuels connection, sympathy drives disconnection, which goes back. I said I was going to mention it later on, and you mentioned that quite early on in this episode. So I think it sort of wraps it up quite nicely on that.
Part of the reason that it creates connection is because empathy is about showing that you recognise the emotion in someone else. You might not have experienced the thing yourself, and obviously you can't feel it the way someone else feels it. But when you recognise what somebody is feeling, and then you are able to voice it, you're able to reflect it back to them, that creates connection because you feel understood. And so in recovery, if someone avoids judgment of you and says something to you that makes you feel like you're understood, that this is a tough place you're in, I can see that this is a tough place, it must be really difficult. It makes you feel connected and warmer towards that person because you feel like they get it.
Yeah.
Sympathy is a knob.
I don't think you can put that in, but yeah, it probably is. Anyway, I've sort of come to the end of my notes there. So if there's anything else you wanted to mention on those particular points, or if we can sort of crack on with their gratitude lists and Spotify searches, etc.
I think you've covered everything that I would have wanted to cover in your notes, your extensive notes.
Yeah, I thought they were rounded.
Yeah,
I thought it covered everything I wanted to say myself.
Yeah, but I like the way you always want to do them in order, don't you?
Of course.
Yeah. You don't like jumping about in them, do you?
Well, if I do that from time to time. I have done that a little bit today, but I have to make sure that I tick the bit I've already looked at. Make sure that I don't go over old ground.
Yeah, I should be more. I should be more kind of accepting of that because that would be me showing empathy for your need to stick to.
Thank you.
The knitting.
Yeah, we'll take that on board a little bit. I think it'll make you a better person.
Okay, I'll bear that in mind.
Gratitude, right? I mean, I know that I've got a list now of the ones that we've used. So I really wanted to go on to. If I said Michael Antonio, what number would that invoke in your mind?
Well, he's playing. Hasn't he got the number 9 shirt now?
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Number 9 is so everyone will be able to share in this one because number 9 is lifetime moments. And what I mean by that is when you kind of think back across your life, it's those little moments that stick out. If you were drawing a line of your life and the particular things that you remember that gave you joy or happiness or whatever, they're the little spikes in the line. And I think the more that you think about those things, the smaller the things you pick out and the more significant they feel. So I'll give you an example. This is the thing that kind of inspired it for me. I can remember some years ago, I was coming back from a songwriting workshop and I was driving across the Forth Road Bridge. I've been in Inverness. I was driving across the Forth Road Bridge and I remember the song that I was listening to at the time. And I can remember what the weather was like and how I felt. And I felt a kind of elation, a sense of joy that I hadn't felt for years. And it was like 5 minutes, it takes 5 minutes to drive across the Forth Road Bridge. But whenever I think about that, it gives me that same sort of feeling. That's what I mean by a lifetime moment. Remembering something of your life where you had a particular feeling that was particularly joyous or uplifting or invigorating. and returning to those moments in your thoughts sometimes to give you that same sort of little lift. And so I would say that we can all do it. It's just a question of whether you practice it or not.
That's really good. No, I do like that. I think particularly that you're talking about there's a certain song playing, because I think we can almost be dragged, or not dragged, it's probably the wrong word to use, but we can be put into almost on an involuntary basis. You hear a song and it will automatically invoke the experience surrounding that song at a particular place and time. It can work the opposite way as well. Obviously, it can suddenly remind you of a situation which is particularly sad, or remind you of someone that's passed. But yeah, I think those pivotal. Would you say they're pivotal moments, or they're just?
Yeah, I think it's precisely because they are not pivotal that makes them so powerful. Because a pivotal moment in your life might be having children, or getting married, or a death, or whatever it might be. But these are little things that just pop up in your life, and you don't. I mean, I don't remember. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect to have that feeling, but it was so powerful that I've remembered it ever since. And I think it's, the reason it's on my list is because we have the kind of ability to hold on to those moments in our lives and replay them, because our subconscious is so powerful. When you close your eyes and replay a happy memory that you have, it gives you the same feelings. So it's like free on tap happiness that you just got to turn up to the bar, punch your fist on it, and say, "I'll have a bit of that happiness, please, barman." If that's not too crass a metaphor to use in a podcast that's loosely based around addiction recovery.
I was going to say that, yeah, you might, you could have chosen better, I'm sure. But I think we would then we'd all know exactly what you're talking about.
You'd all have empathy, wouldn't you, with it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Nice twist. Twist. My gratitude for this week was being able to take or to go with some of my fellow recovering addicts from Aspire to Be along to watch Maidstone United play.
Nice.
Play a little bit of football on Saturday. I think it was great to be back on the terraces anyway. It's the first football match I've been to since lockdown. Actually, no, I did go to a little charity match, but this was the first sort of professional match to go and watch, and it was something quite nice about it. There was just almost being back in the old familiar, the place on the terraces where you and I often stand there.
Yeah.
Pretty much in the same place. And I had my friends around me that it was really nice that three of them had never been to a football match before, and so it's quite nice to see how they react. To see how they react to the atmosphere. It was unfortunate. It was a little bit of a drab game. They managed to get a 1-0 win, but they scored a penalty at our end, and there was a little bit of heightened emotion on it also. But it was nice. It was just lovely to see other people react to join in some of the joy that I feel. When I go and watch a footy match.
Did anybody knock the lens out of your glasses?
No, that's a sort of a point. That's not one of my blips in the right or the highlights of my life. Looking back, I try not to remember that. No, they didn't. But it was quite nice, even to the point where there's one of the girls I was speaking to. She'd never been to a match, as I say, and I had to explain to her about the lines on the pitch and what they meant and where they were, and it was really lovely. It was great. But it's not only this. She wasn't doing it just because she thought I would want to hear what she was saying. It was almost, she was really taking it in and enjoying it, and everything that was going on. She knew nothing about football at all, and it was nice to build on that. Yeah. And I think she was grateful, and I was grateful that she asked me those things.
Did you use the ketchup and the salt shaker to explain the offside rule at half time?
We didn't go through that. No, we didn't go through the offside rule. I didn't have a Bovril. I don't like Bovril. It's not. Well, it's not that I don't like it. It's one of those things that there's so much nicer things to drink than Bovril. I mean, that's
not really.
Not
at football. You got to have Bovril at football, haven't you?
No,
I think it's the law. It's the law, isn't it?
No, you need a nice strong Yorkshire brew. That's what you need. All
right, lad.
Path. Going back to the path business.
All right, go down the path to get a nice cup of tea.
Yeah, that'll upset any people from the north of our country that are listening, wouldn't it?
Why? It's done with fondness.
Oh, okay, that's all right then.
Yeah. Good.
So, I was going to go on to the spot. Just to round up with the Spotify search, really.
Okay, so Sympathy for the Devil.
Sympathy. It could only be that one. I've got it. I mean, I've
Empathy
got others.
for the Devil.
That's what I said. Yeah.
I said sympathy for the devil, then empathy for the devil.
Yeah, well, there is one called Empathy for the Devil as well, not by the Rolling Stones, obviously, but there is some. I can't remember who it was by now, but I did listen to a bit of it, but it wasn't very good. And it wasn't really worthy of mention. But yeah, but to roll this back in with the mentioning Charlie Watts right at the beginning of this episode, it could only be Sympathy with for the Devil, and it's such a great track anyway. But there was others that were close to. There's in the runners-up positions, if you like, there's a track called Sympathy by Vampire Weekend, which I really liked. Right. And there's one called Empathy by Alanis Morissette, which was nice, which I think probably been more along your lines.
Yeah, I like a bit of Alanis Morissette because her songs are so cheerful.
Yeah. But, well, yeah, quite. But there was one that I wanted to put on, but I thought it probably wouldn't. But I like to have something that's a little bit more metally or grindcore or whatever. So there was a track called Empathy by a group called Dead by April, which I thought was quite a nice touch. Yeah, they're a Swedish metalcore band, right. But it was a little bit too noisy, and I thought it wouldn't. And you can't not have Sympathy for the Devil in this episode, as far as I'm concerned. No,
it's all kind of the stars are aligned for that one, aren't they?
Very much.
Yeah, good, excellent.
Okay,
are we done?
Are we all right? I'm done. Yes, mate.
Right, hang on.
Lovely. I feel relaxed. Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye. Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.